Elisa's going to take us on a virtual tour of a beautiful exhibition, so I hope you'll stick around. Elisa is an independent curator and arts and cultural producer with 10 years of experience working and collaborating with artists and institutions to produce and curate art pieces, exhibits, festivals, and cultural events. As cultural specialist at the UNESCO Field Office in Mexico, she developed projects and curated exhibitions concerning the relationship between culture and migration, audiovisual heritage, and others relating to social sciences and the environment. Prior to that, she was head of exhibitions of the Las Raíces program at the Ministry of Culture in Mexico between 2010 and 2013, where she curated and produced over 20 exhibitions and over 10 site-specific installations. She started her curatorial practice as assistant curator of the 10MG Gallery in Mexico City. Among other projects, she has collaborated with the International Human Rights Arts Festival in New York and the International Contemporary Animation Film Festival and Masivo. She currently lives in Brooklyn, New York, where she works as programs manager at Norris Foundation and as an independent curator.
Just one moment, if I may interject before we begin. Please hang around after the video and you can ask Elisa questions about the exhibit and the video. Thank you. It will be coming on shortly. Here we go.
Common Frequencies brings together a group of cross-disciplinary Mexican artists whose work meets at the intersection of art and science and explore the relationships between these two disciplines through sound, ecology, language, and the construction of symbolic imageries. The exhibition features the work of Tania Candiani, Lorena Mal, Gilberto Esparza, Marcela Armas, and the Interspecifics collective. The exhibition stresses the idea that humans are only one of millions of other living, vibrating beings, and that we require each other to make our environment work, in the same way that we, as individuals, need every living being inside us to be. Synchrony is a visual and numerical archive where Lorena Mal explores various notions of living time through the meeting between systems that measure its passing, where rhythm is both biological and musical, and tempo, pace, or heartbeats are all counted as beats per minute. Combining archival objects, images, modified metronomes, scores, and a series of events for two pianos and multiple interpreters playing simultaneously different temporalities, the project takes the standard metronome as main subject to inquire, and departs from the coincidence between the human heartbeat and its limits, both from 40 beats per minute to 208 beats per minute. Through this work, Lorena Mal proposes another sense of pace beyond the dominant history of human law, based on the heartbeat data of all living organisms found publicly to date on scientific literature as polyrhythmic relations to experience different bodies across states of sleep, hibernation, calm, and activity. Gilberto Esparza's Biosonat is an instrument made up of microbial fuel cell models that generate energy from the metabolism of microorganisms present in the contaminated water. These cells work as biosensors measuring the bioelectric activity of bacteria, while other types of sensors simultaneously provide data such as pH, conductivity, oxidation, and temperature. This data is then converted into analog signals that are interpreted by a synthesizer, which translates these values into sound. For Esparza, Biosonat is the perfect excuse to start conversations about conservation, remediation, and life, and a way to connect emotionally with other organisms. The exhibition, Biosonot is accompanied by a short documentary film by Ryan Spears that shows the history of the New York Harbor and the Gowanus Canal to understand the state of the waters and learn more about the life that exists in these bodies of water. Frequencies as magnetic waves are deeply explored in Sinamekuta, a work in progress by Marcela Armas based on the discovery of a magnetic mineral called ferrotite inside an active mine located on a mountain in the Potosi Highlands in northern central Mexico. Ferrotite is a ferrous sulfide that is distinguished by its magnetic properties and is susceptible to magnetic induction under certain processes. As a ritual created in response to the extractive colonial onslaught of the Western world in this and other areas, and in view of the potential devastation of the Sinamekuta mountain due to mining activity, also a clear reflection of the potential disappearance of the Huichol people, Marcela Armas built an instrument with the purpose of exploring the possibilities of reading, interpreting, and rewriting the original memory of the rock using the signal of the heartbeat of a member of the Wirrárica community. After the signal was induced, the rock was returned to the mountain as an offering. Accompanying a first prototype of the instrument in the form of a turntable is a reproduction of the rock using a local Huichol technique using colorful beads named taquiras to delineate the magnetic map of the rock. In Sireni, Tania Candiani explores the poetic relations that emerge from mimicking the sounds that are alien to humans. Sireni is a sound action based on the interest in using the sound of voices, specifically with choral groups, to interpret, replicate, or deconstruct sounds that are not typical of the human voice. This live action was created in Naudiport, a place that has ceased to be essential for many years and in consequence has imprinted the whole neighborhood with nostalgia and abandonment. For this reason, the choir sang a call for the arrival of the boats back to the dock.
My dear friend Amelia, I hope you're doing well.
My first memory is of spontaneously
Many years
coming
into the future,
We've
we are in
always
a world
existed
that
as
has the
two.
newest
The
technology.
Industrial Revolution
With one side being where the octopus and the bacteria
We
live,
don't
and the
understand
other
why.
being where the life forms
Fancy
are.
mail.
Almost Non-Human by Interspecifics was made in collaboration with 6 students who developed a first-person narration using techniques of speculative fabulation and science fiction. They created futuristic stories from the perspective of other organisms. The result is a series of short films that approach themes related to the different global emergencies that the world faces, narrated from a perspective of otherness.
We have always existed as two, bacteria and fish. We started as two and we're going to end as two. We don't understand why, but though our life forms are very much different, it's almost as if we were designed as a team. One of us swims through the water, rays of light shining down on us. The other eats as we go through the water. When we first came into existence, searching the water for things to feed the smaller bacteria was difficult but doable. But as time has passed, the water has gotten clearer. The amount of food for the smaller one has decreased greatly, and the clarity of the water has caused more creatures to populate these waters. The possibility of the larger one of us being consumed increasing by the day. The rays of light have reappeared in the waters as they always do. It's the start of a new day, and the search for something for the smaller one is proving impossible. It's very quiet. There are no chemical reactions to perform. There's nowhere to hide from the predators lurking. After hours of searching, we finally find something for the smaller one to eat. The last speck of waste in the river. We are now sure that this is the end. One of us without food, the other waiting to be eaten. They say that you can't just look for a new home up in the stars, that you must look after what you've got. Earth. We've made Earth beautiful together. Yet they still reach for space. Humans and us, while very different, do have something in common. We always want more. The difference is that there's nothing more for us to get.
This series of poetic encounters with nature aim to generate a different sonic landscape in which the concept of commonness and community accentuates the fact that we are individual but critically connected.
Okay, so excuse me. Let me thank you so much for that, Elisa. I was at the opening last Saturday, and I recommend that people go there. It's a intriguing exhibit, especially when you see it all and have the opportunity to walk and glance and think and talk about what you're seeing. I wonder if there are questions from the audience for Elisa and her work. So can you just tell us, while we're waiting for the questions, Elisa, could you tell us about the artists? So how do you know them? How did you get them here? Is this their first time in the US? And just how did it happen?
Of course. Well, thank you so much for the invite, first of all. I'm really excited to be part of this conference and to be able to share the work that we have taken about 2 years to complete. The relationship with the artists and the way that I got to the artists has been different. Some of them I already knew from my time working in Mexico, specifically Lorena Mal. I've worked with her in the past. And then I was already following the works of Marcela Armas, Gilberto Esparza, and Tania Candiani. And then kind of like at the end, after a conversation with Tania, she was like, you need to meet these girls from Interspecifics. So I got in contact with them, had a visit in their lab/studio. And then I thought it was just like the perfect way to like completing things for the exhibition. Some of them have exposed here in New York in the past, especially Tania Candiani. She has presented exhibitions at the 8th floor with the, what is it, the Rubin Foundation, I think. And then Interspecifics have shown a lot of work in Berlin, and also the case of Lorena. She's actually just finishing a residency at the McCall Center of the Arts in North Carolina, where she was presenting also other works that she has developed. Yeah, so that's kind of how they all came to the picture for this exhibition.
Now, I think that you are going to be having some additional activities connected with the exhibit.
That's correct. So the exhibition just started on May 1st, and it's going to be up for about 6 months, so until October, mid-October. And so one of the initial ideas of this exhibition was that in this idea of community, all the pieces are somehow rooted in collaboration. So in one way or another, the artists have partnered with different specialist scientists or other artists to create the works and to be part of the programming in the exhibition. So for example, the video that you saw, the excerpt of the video, because that's not the full video, of course, is by Ryan Spears, was a collaboration where Ryan was interviewing different scientists about the general state of the water at both the Gowanus Canal and the Brooklyn waterfront. And then Gilberto was able to come for the opening. And while he was here, we did like this specific activations of the instrument at the Gowanus Canal and the Brooklyn waterfront. So people were able to listen what the rivers were saying, right? While measuring like all this different data, the pH, the oxidation, the different bacteria that could be in there. All this information is read by the biosonode and converted in sound while it cleans it. So it was really interesting to see, not only in the video, but in live, because these were like live events, to listen to the differences of both bodies of water. Another thing that that I'm just going to throw in there, because I think it's interesting, is that this was the first time that the biosonode was interacting with salt waters, which also gave a complete set of sounds into whatever the instrument has performed before, because it was always tested with fresh water mostly. So that was really interesting. So that was one collaboration. Lorena Mal is right now collaborating with 4 piano players who will be the interpreters of her piece Synchrony that will be presented on June 5th at BioBAT Art Space also. So this is going to be a concert with 2 pianos and 4 piano players, where all 4 piano players are going to start like conveying and bringing together all these different temporalities of the different species that are included in the work, in this idea of like getting out of like the human measuring of music and time, and kind of like extend it to other realities of other organisms. so it starts from a clam to a burr to like several species. So that's really nice. And that's going to happen on June 5th. And we're also working with a choir in Brooklyn, the Grace Chorale Brooklyn, who Tania Candiani is collaborating with to create a piece that will be presented towards the end of the exhibition, also as part of the show. And we're going to continue having like different presentations and activations of the pieces in Brooklyn. And we want people to come and see it and to engage and to ask questions. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, and how, I guess we could ask Janine, how do people come to BioBAT if it's going to be on exhibit until October?
Yes, we'll have, if you follow online, you'll see this, the programming we have, that'll be open, and then we are open by appointment, so you can contact us at our website, on our website.
Okay, and I think it's already in the chat for us. And one thing, Elisa, that your exhibit and your video and your discussion just now, like it typifies, here we are, the science, right? Whether it's sonography or, and the art that is made from this blending of art and science. And especially it would be interesting to have had a recording of the Gowanus Canal when the Dutch were dipping their toes in the Gowanus Canal. What would that sound have been like? And
I think that would be really interesting.
And
yeah,
it might be a great job for a scientist to try to recreate what that water was like in us. I don't know, just.
Well, one of the things that Gilberto says is that the piece, the Biosonaut, it's there to generate conversations and to bring other people into that conversation. So he has always been like really open to collaborate with other scientists, that if they want to bring like this research and investigations into his instrument, that is something that it is also made for. So, and then the other thing that I was going to say is that we don't know so much about how the water would sound, but what we know is that he's already working on a database from all the different bodies of water that the Biosonaut has interacted with. And you can see like all the differences. For example, in a cenote in Cozumel, the harmonies, you can actually hear harmonies in the sound. And, you know, like you can hear like the movement and it's very soft. And then you have a place like the Brooklyn waterfront, where there's like kind of a mix of clean water, but there's also other things, and then the salty water. So the conductivity of the salt water like brings like these sounds that are like eventually, because they just like go straight to the cells and filter and convert into sound. And then eventually you can find some harmonies also, but it is a really funky mix. So it's really interesting to hear all of those.
It sounds like the Brooklyn water, as Brooklyn people, can be quite pushy and unharmonious, but
it could be.
I think the Common Frequencies exhibition is a really good example of what Reggie was, all the questions that Reggie was asking about how artists and their role. And you see that all of these artists are collaborating with all these different people in different communities, and they're using the science and they're creating something brand new, and they're giving us something to feel and experience. So I think that it was a really good example of all of the things we were talking about tonight.
Yes. And so on that note, I think we will end our evening. And again, Elisa, thank you. Janine, thank you. And I encourage everyone to go to BioBAT Art Space. And if the warm weather is coming and you can just step outside of the space on your way in or your way out and just spend some time looking at the harbor, hearing the sounds, and luxuriating in the weather that one of these days is going to be nice in Brooklyn, as opposed to all the rain we've been having of late.
And people can take the ferry also, because it's right there.
Right, you could take the ferry there. If you're Manhattanite, just come or from Rockaway, I guess you could do that because the ferry is right
Yes.
there. So I see that. Let's just take one last peek. We have some questions. Oh, someone wants to know how to introduce this into grade school education. And we'll close it with that. That sounds like a good.
Do you mind if I answer, Lisa?
No, I just. Oh.
Please go ahead.
We have ideas about bringing some of the schools into this exhibition and working with them. But just one example, the Interspecifics, they actually did work with students to create the stories. So they talked about the students did research and with different species, and they created their own story based on these species. And then the artists, Interspecific, the collective, animated the stories for them. So this is already happening in the show as well.
That's
Yeah,
great.
thank you for mentioning that, because that is a very important collaboration that we've had, and the work that these students did is just amazing. So the very last video that you saw was one of the films from one of those students. So the content of that video, the narration was created throughout 3 sessions of a workshop with Interspecifics, where the collective was guiding the students into how to write this like speculative stories about organisms that don't exist, but that would exist in the future because they have been created because of all these like natural disasters that have happened. And then kind of like envision and imagine what would be for them, and like what would be like their last day before their extinction. So the range of stories and it's just amazing, and it's worth seeing.
And I concur. And so everyone, we will see you again tomorrow at 9 o'clock, same place, right here on XQUZ number 547, or whatever the link was. But we will see you here on Zoom tomorrow. And with that, I bid you all a good night. Enjoy your evening. And Elisa and Janine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
I want to call out my colleagues who've been working behind the scenes. Celia and Ariel have done a great job making this seamless. So thank you to them as well.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.